If you got an iPhone 14 Pro Max, then congratulations, you've got the best iPhone currently available. The iPhone 14 Pro Max is the best iPhone available right now, but it probably won't be for long as the iPhone 15 line is set to launch on September 12. It's almost guaranteed that the iPhone 15 Pro Max will be a better phone. There's no question that this is a fantastic handset, and given how new and expensive it is, you might not be planning to upgrade just yet. But if the upcoming iPhone 15 Pro Max has you tempted, or if you don't yet own either phone and are wondering which to pick, this video is for you. Today, we'll look at all the key specs and features of the iPhone 14 Pro Max and compare them to what we're expecting from the iPhone 15 Pro Max based on rumors. As while nothing has yet been confirmed about Apple's upcoming flagship, most aspects have at least been leaked. At first glance, the iPhone 14 Pro Max and the 15 Pro Max might look quite similar. The 14 Pro Max has a glass back, a stainless steel frame, and a weight of 240 grams. It also has a square camera block in the top left corner of the rear and a dynamic island cut into the screen. Based on leaks and rumors, the 15 Pro Max will probably also have a glass back, a metal frame, and likely a very similar overall shape and dimensions, complete with a similar camera block and a dynamic island. It will almost certainly also match the iPhone 14 Pro Max for water resistance. However, the 15 Pro Max is widely rumored to have a titanium frame rather than a stainless steel one. This switch could make it tougher and slash or lighter, though it's also a more expensive material. Additionally, we're hearing that the device will have a customizable action button on the side rather than a mute switch. Another likely visual difference will be iPhone 15 colors, with the 15 Pro Max rumored to be launching in dark red, silver, gold, and either graphite, space gray, or space black, all of which are very similar dark gray shades. As for the 14 Pro Max, that's available in deep purple, silver, gold, and space black. So the only big difference there is the 14 Pro Max's deep purple shade potentially being replaced with a dark red color for the iPhone 15 Pro Max. There's less to say about the screens simply because these two phones will probably use near-identical panels. To be more precise, the 14 Pro Max has a 6.7-inch 1290 by 2796 OLED screen with a 120Hz refresh rate, HDR10 support, and a peak brightness of 2000 nits. For the 15 Pro Max, we're expecting more or less exactly the same display specs, though we wouldn't be surprised if there are some small improvements to the overall quality or potentially a higher peak brightness. Now let's talk about the camera department. The main difference between the cameras on these two phones could be our telephoto snappers. As while the 14 Pro Max offers 3x optical zoom, reports suggest the 15 Pro Max will switch to a periscope lens design, potentially offering 6x or even 10x optical zoom. That's a big upgrade, and it might not be the only one, with some reports also suggesting the 15 Pro Max will use a larger sensor for its main camera than the 14 Pro Max, which will likely mean improvements to image quality. That said, the megapixel counts could be the same, with both phones having a 48 megapixels main camera, a 12 megapixels ultra-wide, a 12 megapixels telephoto, and a 12 megapixels front-facing camera. There has been one mention of the iPhone 15 Pro Max having a dual-lens front-facing camera, but the source of this claim doesn't have a good track record, so we think a single-lens snapper is more likely. Now, moving on to the performance segment. The iPhone 15 Pro Max is sure to be a more powerful phone than the 14 Pro Max, since one guaranteed upgrade in a new model is a new chipset. Specifically, the 15 Pro Max will almost certainly have an A17 Bionic chipset, which leaks suggest has a 20% faster CPU than the A16 Bionic used by the last-gen 14 Pro Max, so it could be a significant upgrade. That said, the 14 Pro Max is already one of the most powerful phones on the planet and not much can slow it down, so you might not notice a vast real-world difference. Beyond that, the 15 Pro Max might also have 8 gigs of RAM according to iPhone 15 specs leaks, which would be up from 6 gigs in the 14 Pro Max, though a more recent leak points to 6 gigs again, so don't count on a RAM boost. Now moving on to the battery department. One other area that could get a significant boost in the upcoming iPhone is its battery, as iPhone 15 battery leaks suggest the 15 Pro Max might have a 4852 mAh cell. That would make it 12% larger than the 4323 in the 14 Pro Max, coupled with a more efficient chipset that could make for a big upgrade in longevity, and the 14 Pro Max already has decent battery life. As for charging, that is widely expected to be handled by USB-C on the 15 Pro Max rather than the Lightning of the last-gen model. Charging speeds may get a slight boost too, with one leak pointing to 35 watts charging for the 15 Pro Max. That's up from an official figure of 20 watts with the 14 Pro Max, though some tests found it could reach 27 watts. Finally, while we wouldn't count on it, the 15 Pro Max might support reverse wireless charging, as one leak suggests Apple is working on this. That would allow you to use the device as a wireless charger for other devices. But we haven't heard about this elsewhere, so we doubt it will be included. Now let's talk about the most important point, pricing. The 14 Pro Max is of course out now, and it starts at $1,099, for which you'll get 128 gigs of storage, with prices rising if you want more than that. The 15 Pro Max is expected to land in mid-September, with the exact iPhone 15 release date looking to be September 12, as Apple is holding an event on that date. When it does land, it will probably do so with a higher price tag than the 14 Pro Max. Exactly how much higher remains to be seen, but numerous sources have pointed to a price rise for the 15 Pro Max, with one suggesting the production costs for the iPhone 15 line are also higher. However, you might at least get more storage for your money, with leaks suggesting Apple might ditch the 128 gigs model, so the starting size would be 256 gigs, while the top 15 Pro Max model could have 2 terabytes of storage, which is double what the 14 Pro Max tops out at. But as per the recent post on X that the iPhone 15 Pro Max release date could be delayed by up to approximately 4 weeks due to severe yield issues related to the production of image sensors for the high-end smartphone. Apple supplier Sony was struggling from insufficient production capacity amid an increased demand for 48-megapixel cameras. This year, Apple is tipped to equip all iPhone 15 models with the 48-megapixel primary camera that debuted on the iPhone 14 Pro models. It is worth noting that the tipster is not the first to predict a delay in production of the top-of-the-line model. TF Securities analyst Ming-Chi Kuo claimed in a Medium post last week that Apple's 15 Pro Max project was the last to kick off, and mass production for the handset was behind other models in the series. So it might be possible that you'll need to wait a bit more than usual. So going by the leaks and rumors, the main upgrades you're likely to find on the 15 Pro Max include a new, better chipset, a longer-range telephoto camera, a larger sensor for the main camera, a bigger battery, a USB-C port, a customizable action button, and a titanium frame. So in other words, there might be a lot of upgrades, but the general look of the two phones is likely to be similar, as are the screens and their ultra-wide and selfie cameras. And while the 15 Pro Max is sure to have a performance boost, it might not be massively noticeable. Plus, of course, the 15 Pro Max will probably cost more. Even if the price doesn't rise, which it likely will, the price of the 14 Pro Max is sure to drop once the new model launches. So if you already have an iPhone 14 Pro Max, then unless you really care about USB-C or a periscope camera, there's probably no desperate need to upgrade, but the upcoming phone still looks set to be substantially better overall. I hope I was able to solve all your doubts and questions regarding the upcoming iPhone 15 lineup. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below, and for more updates, you can check out our channel. See you in the next one. Peace out.